There's a video called PUBG Was Amazing and How It Got Bad by Mr. The Cursed Judge. So let's check it out together.
This video is sponsored by Nebula. I have a beef to settle today, and it's about PUBG, Fortnite, and historical revisionism. No fancy intro, let's just start this shit. PLAYERUNKNOWN Battlegrounds is a battle royale shooter that released in 2017, 6 years from this video's upload. It features a 100-player battle in an increasingly shrinking play zone until one person or team is left standing. PUBG is one of the most influential games of the past 10 years, the largest reason being that it kicked off the battle royale frenzy that's led to not just every single AAA studio's take on the genre, but Fortnite, one of the most culturally dominant and successful video games of all time. Now, unlike a lot of people, I don't really have a problem with Fortnite itself, but I do have a problem with how PUBG began to be treated as Fortnite passed it in popularity. So first, let's talk about what PUBG is. PUBG is slow. Out of almost any battle,
PUBG used to be slow. Alright? It used to be slower than it is today. I mean, technically, it's still relatively slow, but it used to be a lot slower. A lot. And it was just, it played out differently, right? Doesn't play out the same way today.
battle royale I've seen, this game consists mainly of quiet moments. While gunfights are the actual highlights of PUBG, those are only small moments between looting, traveling, and waiting for the game to advance. While matches do run on a timer, it's only ever pressing when you're on the clear opposite of the map or near the end of the game, leaving plenty of space for silence. The game, like most shooters, doesn't have any music during the gameplay itself, leaving room for sound to be a key component in gunfights. However, while many games have sound act almost intimately, being something you listen closely to and many times giving you mere milliseconds to prepare, sound in PUBG is this roaring warning siren. While traveling can be slow and occasionally tedious, just watching someone else do it doesn't give you the whole experience. Your time spent traveling is focused on scanning the horizon line, listening for sound cues, choosing where to go, darting from cover to cover. Gameplay is blanketed by this heavy feeling of paranoia, like you could be shot at any moment because most times you very well could. While you are constantly searching for others, so is everybody else, and a quiet moment can be...
Do you guys remember this fog? You know, it's one of the things that I'm glad it's gone. I don't think there's any type of fog weather anymore. There might be a little bit, but this was kind of a dark time, literally, and technically and figuratively and in every other way. The fog was great. Well, I guess the fog was okay for the first week. But then you get kind of tired of it. There's fog still
rip
bad?
to shreds in an instant if you're not the first to the draw. And also,
Might be
guns
an
sound
arrow.
fucking terrifying in this game. They're so loud, so much louder than any other sound in the game, it's ridiculous. It reminds me strangely of Five Nights at Freddy's 4, where you need the game to be loud enough to hear the breathing noises, but the louder it is, the worse the jump scares will be. And honestly, this game has scared me far more than any horror game could. While danger is kind of a binary thing in this game, you're either in a gunfight or you're not, the perceived danger goes higher and higher the smaller the circle gets. You go from sprinting in empty fields without blinking to being terrified to peek your head out unnecessarily. As easy as it is to make some little video shitting on the game because you don't care about it, the tension and enjoyment of PUBG comes with truly wanting to be the last one standing.
Have you guys noticed that most of the clips are third person? That is probably because the game was the most popular when it was on a meteoric rise when it was only third person as well. And even today, most Asian players, and which is the biggest part of the player base, plays third person. So third person really is PUBG. First person is like a sub mode of PUBG that we started playing in like the summer. I don't know when it came out, like July, August, something like that, 2017. The third person is the real PUBG. Even though Stray, you say that it's not the real PUBG. Third person is. That's what the game was made for third person.
It makes every moment, quiet to
least
loud,
initially.
have a tension to it that I just don't get in most games. The game is also heterogeneous? Okay, small tangent. In chemistry class in high school, I learned about a concept called homogeneity and heterogeneity. Basically, if something is homogeneous, it means that when you mix all the ingredients of a recipe together, the individual elements all sort of perfectly mix into this new thing. So if you look at it or taste it or anything, it's impossible to witness all the individual parts. Instead of sugar and water, it's sugar water. If something is heterogeneous though, no matter how much you try to mix it all together, its parts, its sections will be easily visible and
This is
present
too
where they belong.
complicated for us
Oil
gamers,
and water
man.
never becomes oil water.
We don't
These days,
get
it feels
this.
to me like most competitive
you.
multiplayer games are
Just show us
homogeneous.
guns.
They want to give you a consistent feeling of enjoyment at any given moment, having every piece of the game sort of broken down into bite-sized bits that you can consume easily. PUBG, in contrast, is chunky salsa. Every part of one singular game of PUBG is intensely separated from each other. You're traveling or in a fight or looting, you're at individual notable locations and following
By the way, let me rewind a sec.
hide from each
Take a look at the recoil.
You're traveling or
Take a look at this recoil right here. I'm gonna put it on 0.25. Look at this recoil.
in a fight or looting.
It's just tick, 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 tick. On an 8x. So that's what? That's a fully zoomed in 8x, right? Tick, 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 tick. No problem. That's what it used to be like.
Individual notable locations and following distinct tactical decisions. Hide in this house, head to that hill, keep an eye towards the blue to catch any stragglers. Every part of the game, even the more quote-unquote boring ones, are distinct and turn every match into its own little narrative of decision making. This is a game composed of scenes, and I like that feeling. The slow moments make the exciting ones more impactful. The stress of the exciting moments can make the boring ones even somewhat peaceful. It's swimming in the breath you take when you re-emerge from it. However, despite my enthusiasm for the game as it was, and despite the fervor for PUBG at the time of its release, the community's view began to slowly shift away from this excitement. When tracking the progression of...
You saw Tyler one there. Basically everyone played PUBG. Every big streamer played PUBG at some point during the first like 2 years. Like almost everyone that was big during that time played it. It was the game.
Battlegrounds design philosophy, the most damning view is through the design of its maps. Erangel, the first and only map present at release, is a microcosm of the way the entire game is designed. To simplify things greatly, Erangel is constructed of hot spots, medium spots, and cold spots. Despite there being 20 or so named locations, their popularity is wildly different, and not just based on something as simple as closeness to the center of the map. Locations like Prison or Sosnovka Military Base were some of the hottest spots in the entire game, beating out the more traditional townscapes of Rozhok and Yasnaya Polyana despite them being accessible in almost every game. A surprise.
So, there's a lot of reasons why everyone likes this map, or most people like this map, even though apparently these days Tego is like the most big map. The cargo is the hotspot. Yeah. So what was nice is that you could pick whether you wanted to fight early, whether you wanted to completely like avoid fighting early. You had the choice, and everyone could play their own game, right? Everyone could play their own game, or you could go to school and lag out and die and whatever. But it was nice that the game offered this many different ways of playing, which is not the case, for example, for Sanhok. In Sanhok, the game just plays like a completely different game.
Surprising amount of variety was put into every location, with little touches that wildly affected how combat and travel would work both in and leading out of them. One of the most famous...
Also, the game featured a lot of like special landmark buildings that you wouldn't find anywhere else. You had school, you had the whole military base. That was totally different, right? The military base. If you landed on the triple barracks and stuff, if you landed in the back somewhere in the warehouses, completely different feel, completely different ways of playing. I remember fighting those barracks all the time, and it was pretty hard, but that's what made it cool. You couldn't stop playing this map because you always had something new to try out, and it felt good.
Parts of Erangel is the two major bridges leading out of the military island, and not just because of the incident. Bridges all across the island are used as choke points, but the combination of the military base hotspot and the need to get to the circle in a rush right after forces a lot of players to try and hightail it through the bridges. This was such a guaranteed behavior that a whole ass niche playstyle was developed by a subset of players.
You saw right there, vehicles used to explode. They used to explode immediately at reaching 0 health. And these days, they don't. and that's why I stopped playing one-man squads, basically. That was the main reason why I stopped playing one-man squads, because that nerfed the whole solo versus squad advantage that you might have, where you're sneaky and you get a full car and you just destroy everyone in it. Like that was just gone. So one-man squad for me was a different game then. Like it got a lot harder, and I really stopped playing it after that change.
From something as simple as just shooting people as they leave to creating blockades of cars to make gunning past the ambush straight up impossible. Players, me included, would also find favorite locations to
That was like the
drop
worst
to.
strategy
Mine,
ever.
thanks
The
for
most
asking,
stupid
is the
strategy.
shipping crates next to Georgiapol, a location I lovingly call shipping crates. Despite not being a named location, it has surprisingly good loot spread along the tops of the aforementioned crates and inside of warehouses, and is connected to a bunch of other medium-ish spots where you can hunt down players. The gunplay is also interesting, especially in third person.
Look at this fog! There's a red zone as well. If I remove my camera, look at this. There's a red zone on top as well. Is this really great? Do we have to like question our memories? I don't know.
Mode, with the layout giving a verticality to things that doesn't exist in many other areas of the game. I also love the novelty of dropping at Zarki, being the single most outsized and isolated named location in the map. I similarly like Stalber, a set of ruins on the top of a ridiculously tall
tower
mountain.
is so boring.
The list goes on. Shooting range, shelter, quarry, unmistakable locations that each person gets a unique fondness or hatred for, and its variety giving space for many different tastes and playstyles. But among all of these, there is one location that's different than all others. One location that's not just famous, but the place responsible for the slow death of PUBG as a video game. Let's
Apartments?
talk about school. School is a named location in Erangel. It is near the center of the map, meaning it's almost always possible to drop to. It has dense loot spawn locations, and is very small and self-contained. All of these things combined means that it is the most consistently popular spot in the map by far. The second most popular is arguably Pachinki, but unlike school, it is an entire town, spread out enough and with enough cut-off sightlines to keep even large amounts of people to the more controlled and tactical combat of the game at large. School, in contrast, is a Call of Duty match. I mean, let's just tell it like it is. As much as the rest of the game's design philosophy goes directly against it, the first couple of minutes of any PUBG match at school is just a slaughter fest. And while for the best players that
11 kills
there,
still inside school, by the way.
Consistency and often survive it, the vast majority of people who repeatedly drop there but wait in the lobby, jump out the plane, parachute down, and then get killed within 30 seconds. And yet, simultaneously, the rush people would get for the
This map is the reason why we got this part of the map is the reason why we got Sanhok. Because the devs thought that that was how everyone wanted to play. So we got Sanhok. That's pretty much it, guys.
Those few times where they conquered the school outdid any sort of rush people could get anywhere else in the game. It was addicting. While the rest of PUBG was measured and steady, this was nothing but dopamine, and so, for a lot of people, even the ones that left school alive, the most exciting part of the game was already over. As the game continued to be played, and as that initial fervor slowly got less overwhelming, people began to really sink their teeth in to feel that initial high again. While most AAA titles get playtested and refined and perfected before it ever reaches the general audience, PUBG was a game made by a relatively small company without the necessary resources to do that. And while that sort of origin is what made the game feel more authentic to me, it also means that when a lot of mechanics were stress tested, they kinda just snapped entirely. While optimal parachuting didn't really matter when you were dropping into a full-size town, the milliseconds of difference for dropping on the roof of school was everything. While looting could be done fairly gradually in that short grace period of safety elsewhere, in school you had to get a gun and ammo as fast as humanly
I think we're also suppressing how laggy this game was for the first full year. I remember when the servers were literally shut down mid-game and you would not be able to do anything for like good 5 to 10 minutes until we got to like 15 players or something. It would just start melting. And it was like that for quite a long time. We're talking months. They did eventually manage to fix it. They always had some issues. Nowadays, the game is pretty much perfect. Like I can't really see any desync. I can't really see any lag or anything like that. The game just runs fine. I don't know about esports, but like in these casual games, it runs fine. So technically, now it's it's so much better to play than it used to be. Just saying.
Possible. This video game was not designed to be decided by milliseconds, and suddenly had its entire importance placed in the niches of mechanics because of it. And the biggest issue of all of this is that, as a result of the harsh nature of the place, the people who played school non-stop were the ones that got better at the game faster than anyone else. And so, a schism started to form in the community, one between the casual players and the people that I call the school bullies because I'm a cute little bitch, I guess. Because 100 people could be in a lobby, and because a lot of them dropped at school, there were normally a few people or teams in every game whose skill grew further and further apart from the average user base. In a game like Call of Duty with constant respawns, or one like CSGO with short repeating rounds, the penalty for dying was significantly less. On top of that, because death wasn't permanent in the game, you could repeat the same encounters with higher skilled players and not just occasionally win, but also potentially learn from them. In a game of PUBG, if you get hunted down by someone much better than yourself, you lost all the progress you had in the match. For people who invest their hopes in winning a game of PUBG, they might take passive approaches or go for tactical positioning like holding their spot where they can. The issue is, for the school bullies, winning the game became less and less important, compared to winning with as many kills as possible. And so, these small groups of people would end up hunting down and killing anyone who played more passively. To be clear, the school bullies weren't malicious in that way, they just had a goal that shifted from the game's intended one, and as a result, started punishing all the people who held that original
Was Swagger's a school bully? I don't know.
goal heavily. It only took 1 or 2 school bullies per lobby to overwhelm the majority of casual players. However, the matches were not the only place where they were dominating the casual user base. The largest and most prominent figures in PUBG's community were YouTubers and especially live streamers. In comparison to YouTube, where videos could be edited and boiled down to their most exciting parts, live streamers had to try and maintain a minimum level of entertainment. And so, they naturally turned to school and brought all of their fans culturally with them.
Yes, that was that's a great point actually. A lot of streamers that didn't play school or didn't play Pachinki every game got harassed by like Shroud viewers, and even today, like half of YouTube chat is like that. Like why don't you shoot? Why you only have 3 kills when you win, etc. Like it just gets to well everyone that is streaming. When you have people like that all the time, every day, it does create this negative atmosphere. Even though you might be resilient, etc. But the kids that watch Shroud, they just go around and telling everyone that if you're not Shroud, it's terrible. Like you should just quit streaming. And that was a thing. That was a thing.
And as time went on, the pressure these people exerted on the community only got stronger and stronger. For a budding, newly popular development studio looking to keep their game fresh, Bluehole set out to release a brand new map for the game shortly after its official launch in the December of 2017. Miramar is a desert map. It has a major lack of foliage, very fast cars, and very rocky terrain. I don't know if this will make sense to anyone else, but this is a 7.62mm map. Everything feels designed to hit hard and from a distance, because this entire map is incredibly open. The lack of trees and foliage makes it so that anyone can be seen for miles, and you're given the tools to fight from that distance. The towns, along with everything else, have far more verticality to them.
Oh my god.
A lot of gameplay consists of fighting through multi-story windows and ducking from all angles. Los Leones, one of the largest cities to ever exist in PUBG, is borderline labyrinthian. You could have all 100 people drop there and have it be paced like a mostly normal match of PUBG. This map too has its school, being Hacienda del Patron, but the map overall feels much.
This is the most famous clip in PUBG ever. I think this one right here. Also, probably most stream snipers in 5 seconds they'll ever see.
Much more equalized and positional than Erangel. Or in shorter words, it feels like anyone has a chance to win. It's natural and adventurous and daring. It's the most hated map in the entire game. At the time it released, whether it's because people just liked Erangel more or disliked the longer distance gameplay, the map was absolutely despised and has been ever since. In my opinion though, it's because the map was new content that reinforced the original design philosophy of
this map. When it came out, it just wasn't good. But Miramar is the second favorite map of every veteran player, I think. I don't agree that this is, yeah. Miramar overall is the second or third most well accepted map these days. We have the numbers from PUBG Corp, so we know. Also, the pros like playing on Miramar at the end of the day. Candy's most hated? Which with Candy? Like, that map changed so many times, I don't even know.
Of the game. Gunfights were long and methodical again. That sense of paranoia increased. It was harder to just aim your way out of situations where you were tactically or positionally disadvantaged. And, most importantly, it wasn't quote-unquote good content for streamers. As I said, the most prominent school bullies were the live streamers.
Which streamers, right? The Shroud, the Chaco, the I don't know who. I don't know how much Chaco played, like, super crazy early game. Maybe when he played a Shroud, but I don't think he played that aggressive. It was like on the aggressive side, but not that much. But yeah, I don't think these guys liked Miramar that much. I like Miramar, kinda. It was a different map, and the initial iteration was not that great. It was missing content on it. Later on, they fixed it, but initially, it just lacked a lot of things. So,
Streamers, whose main form of income was dropping at hotspots and then trying to kill as many people as possible if they survived afterwards. This map was antithetical to that entire philosophy. And as the talking heads of not just the school bully group but the entire PUBG community at that point, the prevailing sentiment is that the map was boring. I disagree, like quite a lot, like extremely a lot. But with this severe backlash being made about Miramar, Bluehole finally decided to cave. And
yep.
so, what immediately followed was the death of PUBG as we know it.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
Sanhok was the third map to release for the game, a few months after Miramar. Erangel and Miramar are both 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers, giving ample room for players to spread out before being closed back in. Sanhok is 4 by 4. That is 1/4 of the area with the same amount of players. Loot pools were heavily tweaked so that you often only had to loot 1 to 3 houses at most to get almost everything you need for the entire rest of the game.
So this is boot camp. When Sanhok got released, you would see between 30 and 60 players drop on boot camp. I'm not kidding. 30 to 60. And the game wasn't even working well. You remember that clip of Dr. Suspect when he was like trying to pick up stuff and show with his hands? Like, this is how I pick up stuff in PUBG. Just try to 20 times pick up a gun. Yeah, that's when Sanhok got released, that's how the game performed. It was just bad.
And the map was designed to be closer quarters than ever. Not just in area, but in sight range, with almost the entire map covered by trees and rolling hills. And on top of everything, there was not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 areas designed to be their own little version of school, and I'm being charitable here. The camps, Camp Alpha, Beta, and Charlie, are just transparently Call of Duty maps, presumably designed canonically to be training courses or paintball or something. It's an area unmistakably designed for people to shoot each other in. It's kind of funny, honestly. It was the first map to have the circle speed pick up if there were fewer people alive. It was crowded and consistent, action-packed, and utterly unapproachable for new and casual players. While there were 6 different schools, all overwhelmingly popular hotspots, the design philosophy was clear. The entire map was a hotspot, not just at the start, but for the entire game up until the very end. There were no quiet moments, there was no room to breathe. PUBG was fast now, and only getting faster.
But it wasn't just about this game being fast with Sanhok. The problem was that there was so much foliage that you couldn't play other than snake around to be efficient, to win. If you were just all out running and gunning, you would run into a snake and just die at some point. So it wasn't like it was school, but the whole game, it was school and then a jungle around it. And it also took away so much from the game. Like all the long range stuff, the cars. You were playing like 30% of the whole game on Sanhok. And you would have to pray. Literally, you had to just pray to not run into snakes. And that's the problem. Like, the whole concept of this map is just wrong.
With this map, PUBG's culture slammed the gas pedal towards a certain critical point that is the death knell of competitive video game communities. A concept that I like to call the skill wall. This is the point in a competitive video game's existence where the average skill of the player base makes it so that it's no longer worth it for newer casual players to try and learn and play the game. For a company running a continually updating competitive multiplayer video game, this is the thing that you avoid at all costs. PUBG did a fucking speedrun of it. If you ever wonder why game development studios seem to not listen to their communities, this is often a major reason. The simple truth of the matter is that the inner community for a game, the most dedicated people, have a fundamentally different view of the game and how it should be than the average player. And while each group is at odds with each other, the skilled players need the bad players to keep a game alive.
But I have a different view of this. So I think one of the reasons why I stopped playing PUBG is that the skilling in this game is much lower than in other games, similar games, let's say, like Counter-Strike. If any FPS game. The skill level that you can get to, the highest one, a lot of people can get there. That's the problem. In Counter-Strike, only like the top 10, 20 players are on top. Here, there's like 500 people that are on top. And it's very hard to stand out in PUBG. And people got really good, really fast. We're talking like 2018, end of 2018. You had so many people that are playing at the top level that the game becomes kind of random. Again, like it went from random to not random to random again because everyone is good at it. And at the competitive level, you had a different team winning every tournament and stuff like that for a while. Then we had some teams that were a little bit more consistent, but that was also a problem. So I guess these two can go together, but yeah, there's quite a few issues in a game like PUBG.
Well, the casual players don't need the skilled ones at all. Once any new people are warded off from playing, all you have left is a condensed community that stays slowly shrinking until its inevitable death. PUBG is a game that is incredibly punishing to die in, and that's the very thing that makes it so addictive to the most skilled people. When you kill someone in PUBG, the fact that their game is completely over gives every kill a weight that most other games simply don't have. But in Bluehole's attempt to keep the game alive by satisfying their most skilled, the thing they managed to kill permanently is the very thing that kept their game alive in the first place.
This is literally the worst map they ever released.
The state of PUBG now is a relative ghost town. While the game has gotten more popular in China and other Southeast Asian countries, the motor for the game has been stalled for a long time and has simply been gliding slowly down towards the sea of oblivion. Duos is no longer a possible queue in third-person mode, leaving 5 remaining queues in the game. There is now a casual mode featuring 20 real players and 80 bots to try and make the game slightly more possible.
Really, I don't even know about this stuff.
Regular third-person mode having slightly more real people, and first-person mode being near impossible to win for almost anyone but the very best players. However, if I'm being honest with myself here, what I'm wishing for PUBG to be is the thing that I honestly feel like it was never made to be, a forever game. As time has gone on in gaming culture, less and less focus has been put on making more games, but rather making games more content.
I feel like if PUBG keeps the servers alive in 10 years, even in its current state, that it will still get people being free to play. You can always get like a bunch of friends to play it, but it needs some kind of innovation. If you take a look at Fortnite, for example, it went through a whole process of how they changed constructing, how they changed how the whole game worked. Essentially, they changed the maps, they delete old maps. Then they did the no building, then they reset everything to the start. PUBG, though, yeah, they released new maps, but the gameplay is essentially the same as it was like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. So PUBG needs something completely new, something to turn it 180 for it to be popular in the West again. They did vaulting.
Content, more story, more playtime, bigger and better blockbusters. Multiplayer games too have tried hard to adopt that philosophy, but even more so than single player works. While single player games often last 100 hours minimum nowadays, multiplayer games are designed to never end. Even further, it aims to be the only means of entertainment you will ever need. Fortnite, the game eternally compared to PUBG until PUBG was just kind of forgotten, is perhaps the best game ever at doing this. While most other games have structure and rules to them, Fortnite is eternally dedicated to change. It is completely formless, adopting and absorbing any concept that would keep people playing it. And to be clear, I don't really hate this. Like, the game is fucking absurd, but it wouldn't be played by so many people if it wasn't fun, and playing the game myself a few times, it is absolutely fun. But to me, it's not fulfilling. Sure, you might have just gotten a little.
I feel like people need to still learn from Fortnite and how Fortnite did certain things. Obviously, it's not the best game ever, but it is the game that, well, it is the most popular game ever. Maybe with Minecraft, but it is the most popular game ever by quite a few metrics. I'm pretty sure, and there's a reason behind it. The devs made decisions that altered the game drastically, and they said, "This is how we think this should go," and that's it. Like they had the courage to make major changes, whereas in PUBG they were always like, "Oh, we want to keep this. Oh, we want to keep that. Oh, we don't want to take out the red zone. The red zone's still in the game." So a lot of the play base are kids. True, but you also need the kid player base in a game like this to keep the game growing. Obviously, PUBG has a totally different theme. It's like a military sim shooter, let's say, and this is a fantasy shooter. So, yeah, obviously this will appeal more to kids, but you need some kind of you need a you need to change the game every few years or every year if you can to keep it fresh, to keep people coming back. And that's not really happening in PUBG. Like a new patch hits, you don't get like triple the player count, you get like 10-20% increase max. So I would love to see something like that in PUBG. Something that would give us a reason to play it. They did the PUBG labs, they did some experiments, but nothing was significant enough.
Eliminated from the game, but you beat 15 challenges and got 1900 Indiana Jones tokens and a better shot at unboxing the fucking Whippin' Nene. While it is very entertaining, layering feedback on feedback on feedback, the game feels weightless to me. Everything just kinda glides. It's consistent and dense and homogeneous. PUBG is a game that is rough around the edges, occasionally unsatisfying and frustrating and difficult and fucking bullshit, but it has bones. And the developer, pressed endlessly by an inner circle that only wanted more and more, decided to shatter those bones. To try and make a structured game formless, shaping it in new ways by ripping the entire thing apart. The bones would set in new, horrible ways, melding together in unnatural, ugly forms, only to be broken again and again with every new commitment to appeasement. Something called PUBG still exists, but the game died a very long time ago. 5 more maps have been released since Sanhok, respawning has been added, old maps revamped and scrubbed to their original intentions. Several new currencies have been added to the shop, competitive and casual queues have been attempted to be added, but all that is left is an empty vessel of a game, rotting away while the company remains in gleeful denial of that painfully obvious fact. PUBG was dead the moment Sanhok was released. It is truly as simple as that.
It is definitely a breaking point. I agree with this. Um, Nobody can bring back the feeling that we had in 2017, even early 2018, playing this game. Um, but it's mostly because the game was new. I don't think we should take a look at PUBG in 2017 and say, "Oh my God, this decision that they made was great. That design of whatever was great." No, the game was new. The game was fresh. Everyone's coming into the game. That's what made it great. Okay? That's what made it great. Because nobody knew how to play it. Technically, nobody knew how to play it, and you could play it in different ways. Nobody can bring us that feeling back. The game is realistically better to play now. It works better, there's more features, but that's not what makes a game successful. What makes the game successful is its timing and and how things play out when it gets. And yeah, nobody will ever bring us back that feeling and that excitement. But maybe something new, maybe something new happens from PUBG Corp, and we get that again in a different form.
And yet, I can't blame anyone for this. The people dropping school weren't being malicious, it was just the way they enjoyed the game most. Bluehole, now PUBG Studios, was just trying to keep their company afloat. The streamers and YouTubers were just trying to be entertaining. The casual players just wanted to find a game that would be more fun for them. To be honest, I like games for reasons that most people do not. I know that, but it's hard to feel that most of the time. So, while PUBG did die, it really would have regardless. In the world we live in now, the games that survive are the ones that act like Fortnite. It just feels like PUBG is a game that released 5 years too late and then tried to act like it was 10 years ahead. PLAYERUNKNOwn's Battlegrounds was a game that was very special to my heart. It's dead now.
Oh no.
Now, I get a lot of different video ideas, and the majority.
All right. So, pretty cool video. PUBG Was Amazing How It Got Bad by Mr. The Curse Judge, if you want to check it out on YouTube. Yeah, I feel like he made some great points. I don't agree with everything, but I do agree with the main one, and that is this game died with the release of Sanhok, because not only did they release a map that shouldn't exist in this game, but also because that showed the direction that the devs wanted to take the game. And yeah, it just, one thing led to another, and we got here today. Even though, and let me just pull up some numbers here. We take a look at this, and PUBG is here. And we take a look at, where's the graph that I want to see? Oh, right here. If we take a look at where the game is now compared to its peak, it's like nowhere near, right? It's at maybe like 20% of it. But, or 25%. But it is significantly higher than down here, which was, what is this? 2021, end of 2021. Let me zoom in a little bit. This was the free to play, right? And even went up this way from like the summer till now. It went up. I don't know why. Nobody actually knows why, I think. I think it's the lack of games on the market. I think it's a lot of Asians getting into the game again, or for the first time. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that in the West, and I'm talking, when I say me or like us, I mean the Western market, because I have nothing from this game being popular in Vietnam. Or we have nothing from that, because a lot of times in PUBG, it's just even worse. The developers are going to make decisions based on feedback from someone that plays a totally different game than you. Let's say third person PUBG and you're playing first person. And then they're going to make changes based on that. And we had that. Like, they were changing the game to cater towards an Asian audience only. And that killed the player base in the West, pretty much. So my point is, we are here now with PUBG. Can PUBG 2 bump this up, like, back to the old numbers or even higher? Maybe, but they would have to make drastic changes to the game. I don't want it to just port to a different engine. Like, that won't do anything. Like, this game works fine as it is. I would love to see big changes, bold decisions, also some appeal to the Western audience. That's what I would like to see. So the game is not dead, but essentially it is pretty much dead. And esports is pretty much dead. Only a few people can now live off of playing PUBG full time. So it's not an ideal situation, but you can still play with friends. You can still get exciting games. It's still here. I'm playing it now. I mean, it is here. I would just like to see something new. That's it.